Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session about the Journal of Solution-Focused Practices and how to write for it and how to read it. I'm Mark McKergow. I'm the editor of the journal since last year, and I'm joined for this session by Anton Stellamans, who's here from Belgium, who is one of the editorial team, and he's particularly interested in conceptual articles, and he'll be talking a bit about that in a minute. Of course, it's quite a small group, so if you've got questions, just shout them out as we go on. I'll try and keep an eye on the chat as well. If you want to put things in the chat, please do. And I'm just now going to share my screen with, where has it gone? So, the journal. Solution-focused practice was very much had a practitioner foundation, and it hasn't had a great deal of presence in the academic literature, although this is changing. And one of the things that's changing about it is the Journal of Solution-Focused Practice, and we want to publish material that is both academically sound and practitioner-friendly. And that means that we have a bigger variety than many other journals who are around there. And there's the most important web address of the lot, as far as this session is concerned, journalsfp.org. That is where you can find the journal on its new platform, which is driven by the Scholastica system, which we're very happy with. And you will find all the issues there. I'll tell you later on how you can sign up for updates from it. You can't get updates directly from that website, but there are other ways to get updates from the journal. So a little bit about the background. The journal was started in 2014 by Michael Durant in Australia, in cahoots with the Australian Association of Solution-Focused Brief Therapy, which is now called ASFA. And at that point, it was in print only. And Michael did 3 volumes. And then it went over to Sarah Jordan at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. And she worked with David Haynes from ASFA. And David would kind of organize the sponsorship and the support, with ASFA still being the group who were owning the journal. And Sarah was the editor, along with at that stage Raya Gull and Adam Freuer, who were deputy assistant editors. And Sarah resigned at the end of 2022, and I took it over in 2023, having been the book review editor and was the last editor remaining at that point. However, I'm glad to say that we have made some good progress, which I'll share with you in a minute. We now have an independent body. So the journal isn't owned by any particular association. It's its own body, but it's supported by international SF organizations around the world. And it's fully online. So there hasn't been a print version since 2019. But now it's fully online, but you can download everything. You can get PDFs. It's all properly formatted and everything about that. So the progress we've made over the last 12 months since I've taken over as editor, we've got a new editorial team. Anton, Cecil Walker from the USA and Andrea Zak from Poland. We have an expanded editorial advisory board, which is very important for doing the peer reviewing and supporting the journal. We have a new patron, Professor Gail Miller, Emeritus Professor Gail Miller, who, of course, as many of you will know, was the in-house researcher with Stephen Insu at the Brief Family Therapy Centre, is our patron. He's very happy to support the journal. We have new language editors and translators in Spanish, Italian, Polish, Romanian, Chinese, and Russian, which is excellent. And we want to translate our stuff into as many languages as possible. We have this new platform on Scholastica, which it drives the whole thing. So you can submit papers into the system. We can manage the peer reviewing and editing of the papers in the system. We manage the typesetting. We manage indexing through Crossref. We manage the website. Everything is driven by this Scholastica program, which costs some money, but not more than we can afford, thankfully. So that's good news. We've transferred ownership from the Australasian Association to an independent association, and the chairs of that are Adrian Holmes, who chairs the strategy board talking to the supporters and sponsors, and Andrew Gibson chairs the operational board, which is responsible with the editors to produce the actual journal. And our sponsors, apart from ASFA, who've been very generous in passing over the money they collected over the years for the journal, are EBTA, the SFBTA in the USA, the UK Association, SFIO, SF in Organizations, and the Swiss, Austrian, and Italian associations. And the sponsors all put money in on an annual basis, which gives us the money to run the journal. And of course, all the editors are volunteers and all the peer reviewers are volunteers, but we have enough to pay for the platform, pay for the typesetting fees, pay for cross-ref and all the DOI links and everything each year. So that's really, really important. And the indexing by cross-ref means that our material is visible on a wide level and a wide scale on the internet through the academic search engines and so on. Also, we have new social media channels on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Substack. And I'll tell you more about the Substack one at the end. That's a great way to get updates from the journal. Plus, we have a Facebook page as well. And at the end of last year, we put out volume 7, number 1, which had 17 articles in it, including 2 key reviews of research and other publications about SF that had appeared elsewhere. And that's something we want to keep going. And Andrea Zach is very, very good at keeping that up to date. So, key things about journal is that there are no fees to read it, and there are also no fees to write for it, which is quite unusual. Lots of journals charge authors for publishing. We don't. We can afford to do this because of our sponsorship from the SF organizations around the world. And so we welcome articles of all kinds in relation to solution-focused practice and theory. For example, empirical research papers, that's one with numbers in them, conceptual articles, which typically don't have numbers in them, but who knows, case studies, and we have new guidelines about how to write a case study, which is on the journal website, interviews. I'm just setting up an interview with a solution-focused practitioner in Iran. Did you know that if you look at all the SF research published in 2022, the biggest individual source country of publications was Iran, with 17 papers. And that's quite extraordinary. And I want to find out more about that. So when we've just literally today managed to make contact with somebody after some considerable effort to talk to about SF in Iran. So that's going to be interesting. We want to publish opinion pieces. These are more like personal kind of say, I think this. And it has to be substantiated a bit, but it's not the same as a peer-reviewed paper. You can take a position and then publish it, and other people can respond. And Cecil Walker is the editor who's particularly responsible for that. We have a couple of those being edited and reviewed at the moment. Well, I'm hoping to start running classic papers, although we haven't actually begun to do that yet. We're certainly doing research reviews, so looking around the world for SF research, both in our own journal and elsewhere, and kind of pointing to the more interesting parts of that and making sure that that we can, we know and share the stuff, the work that is going on. There's maybe not so much as we'd like, but work there is going on is very good often, and we want to share that. And also book reviews. I love book reviews. I used to be the book review editor before I took over as the main editor. And reviewing a book is a great way to start to get into print. And we're always looking for people to review books, particularly if you find a book you think could be reviewed. We'd love to hear from you. And there's guidelines for how to write a book review, again, on the website. And you can get hold of us at journalsfp@gmail.com. journalsfp@gmail.com is the kind of journal's email address. So the editorial team, we've got Anton here. Cecil, I'm doing a session with Cecil later on today in the American section. Cecil leads on opinion pieces, Andrea leads on research, and Alex Ashida is a key member of the team. She's the journal manager, and she looks after all the money and pays the bills and looks after and hosts the formal organization. She's also an SF therapist, very, very good, solid person who's very well organized, excellent quality. And we also have who was hoping to be here, but I don't think he is, Martin Buckley, who's just started as our sub-editor. So when all the other reviewing stuff has happened, Martin is trained as a journalist. And so he's very good at just tidying it up a little bit and making sure it all reads nicely. And it's a normal process for this, but it's a good skill that we have in the team. So, quick word about diversity, equity, and inclusion. We want to include as many voices as possible in the journal, and that means work both originating in languages other than English and translating the work into languages other than English, and also being prepared to work with people who aren't so accustomed to academic writing. So we really want to include SF-related content from different parts of the world, people who work in different languages, and we are very happy to work with people in a constructive way to help you, if you want to have something to write, to help you work it up into a suitable form. And typically academic journals are pretty rigorous places, but we of course work in a solution-focused way, so we're very keen to want to help our authors build on what they've got and work it up so that we can publish it and then translate it into as many languages as possible. And that needs volunteers as well, please. And so we have quite a section of translated abstracts and increasingly now translated papers, and you'll find on the journal website a heading for translated abstracts where you can go and find, they're all listed by language. So if you're interested in stuff in Hungarian or Chinese, you can go and dive right in there to the language that you're interested in. And we also want to have stories of SF practice from around the world. So interviews is one way to do that, because it doesn't require the person to write, but there are no doubt other ways to do that too. And we have a new diversity, equity and inclusion committee chaired by Cecil Walker, and that will be meeting soon to think about how to take this forward in real actionable ways. So I'm just going to pause there, stop the share, and see. So Julia says, can the article have been previously published? We've just had a conversation about this in the last 24 hours, actually, Julia. And here's the thing, we can't, if we are publishing something, it's got to be up to our standards. And that means that stuff that's published elsewhere, it might be up to our standards or not. But if we don't have the chance to work on it and revise it, then we can't do it. So we can't sort of take stuff that's been published elsewhere. We're very happy for you to kind of redo it and improve it and do another version of it. We're very happy to take that on, and we can translate that as well into other languages. But if you've got a piece of research that you think we should know about, send it in, and we'll make sure the right people, the research team, get it and make sure it's included in their summaries and in their lists of research, of course.
Mark, if I can jump in there, as an experienced publisher and editor, we would avoid normally anything that's been published elsewhere because of the copyright issues and the royalty issues, and you can get, especially if it's been published in one of these main, rather established publishers, one of the big well-known ones. It's just not worth the effort, and there's a lot of it. It's a lot of work for the editor of the new journal, I'd say.
Yes, so you know, we're interested to get material. Of course, if you've done something, you can read. If you can redo it and add to it and expand it, you know, of course we can consider that.
And often it's a first step towards working towards a bigger article that you can publish in the journal. Of course, yeah. Often the writing starts there, an idea develops there. With the help of peer reviewers and with us editors, it can grow into something really interesting to publish.
Julia.
I'm hearing kind of mixed messages. So is it an academic journal? I hear peer review, and yet I also hear we want stories from around the world, people who don't usually publish. Yeah.
Yes. So both of those are true. So not everything is peer reviewed in the classic double blind, etc. Anything that purports to be research is, but we have other ways that the editors can work with, for example, an opinion piece or a case study, which may not involve completely blind peer reviewing. But nonetheless, of course, the editors will want to review and discuss and, help to improve whatever's put in. And it's always then up to the author themselves as to how they take the editors and the reviewers, feedback on board. And if they say, no, I don't want to do that, well, we will have choices about these things. But so it is an academic journal. We do have double-blind peer reviewing, but not everything goes through that process. So if you wanted to write a short piece about, some solution-focused community building in Outer Mongolia, I doubt very much that we would classically peer review that, but it would be looked at by an editor and a conversation would be had. Good. Okay. So Anton, conceptual articles. I was thrilled when Anton said he would join the team. He's a great asset to us. And you talk about conceptual articles, Anton, and why you were moved to, put yourself forward for this role.
Well, thank you, Mark, and thank you for the invitation. Last year, I joined the board of editors of the journal, and it's been a pleasure to work on the board already. And what I really like about it is that we help the people that submit an article to help to expand it and to make it better in a very solution-focused collaboration stance. So that is something that I really like. I have a background in history and philosophy, so I'm very much interested in the history of ideas and the development of thinking. So I'm very pleased also with this position of being responsible of the conceptual articles, and these are the philosophical articles, or as Mark just said, the articles with not so much numbers in it. A part of a scaling question maybe. But I think it's very important to have a lot of conceptual discussions and writings out there, because it helps to build our practice. I think that I agree, or I think I agree with the saying that you don't need to understand Wittgenstein and all the references to Jacques Derrida and von Glasersfeld in Steve DeShazer's writings in order to become a very good solution-focused practitioner. But I think it helps. In my case, it really helped me to really get to understand the thinking behind the cooking, as Steve DeShazer used to say. So that is, it's my pleasure to work on that. And my invitation to you is, if you have an idea that you want to develop, if you're writing on something, even something small that is being appeared, for example, on LinkedIn or something like that, and you want to develop it further, do contact us, and we will help you to build your article. And another invitation I have is, if you are interested in joining in that process, we're always looking for peer reviewers. So if you feel yourself capable and experienced, and when I look around this room, I think there's only experienced and capable people here, and you feel like, oh, okay, I might be up for some peer review every once in a while. It's a beautiful process, which is beautifully orchestrated by the Scholastica website. So looking forward to working with you.
Okay, thank you, Anton. Questions for Anton? Anything else? Julia.
Forgive me, but what's the difference between, or maybe you could just define what a conceptual piece is? Like, what would fall into that category?
Yeah, we made a difference between research articles and conceptual articles. And conceptual articles can be, but they have more a philosophical twist, reflection, thinking through of concepts of theories behind or associated with with solution focus. Yeah, and research is more the classical research, isn't it, Mark?
Yeah. So conceptual is about what are we doing, how are we doing it,
Yeah.
and trying to find ways to talk about that. Whereas research is typically we did this thing and made some measurement of the outcome, or we did this thing with 100 people and there are some numbers, or that kind of thing, or we did this intervention and we interviewed all the people and here are the results. And you can do that. You know, there are various qualitative research methods which are quite well established. So you didn't have to be numbers in research, but very often that's part of it. You're sort of doing something and trying to make some effort to measure and understand what happened. Whereas the conceptual piece is more like ideas that might illuminate our practice and our work in different ways and new ways and so on. And we're certainly keen for both of those. You know, I made a presentation at the EBTA conference some years ago when the theme was they'd taken this quote from it's Steve, but it's also originally Wittgenstein, and don't think but observe. And I noted that while this is a rigorous thought, Steve had not followed this at all himself, at least not when he was with his clients. I think he did his very best to not think but observe. But he also wrote and co-wrote 76 peer-reviewed articles and book chapters, not counting his books. So he was not a man who didn't think, but he recognized that the difference between thinking about the work and then when you're doing the work, being with your client and really giving yourself and your attention to the client, which is what I think don't think but observe applies to, for example. So we are, you know, in a way, and some people have tried to sort of minimize the theoretical aspects of SF, and I think that's a very uncurious position. You know, we have this brilliant practice that seems to work really well in so many settings, and yet some people seem afraid of talking about it because we might somehow spoil it or something. And I think we owe it to the world to try and understand more about what we're doing. Because if we can get handles on it, useful handles, then we can do it better, we can refine it, we can teach it more easily, maybe. You know, so we owe it to the world to be carefully and thoughtfully, you know, digging into trying to figure out what are we doing here, and also connect it with newly appearing fields in research and academia. Because people are interested now in things they weren't interested in the 80s when Steve and Insoo were, and the 90s when they were working. So there's the background shifts, and that gives us new possibilities of connection as well.
And I think a better understanding of the philosophy of solution focus helps us to better appreciate the beauty of this way of working. And to make a comparison, I'm studying musical theory now. And thanks to the study of musical theory, I hear different things in the music I've been listening to for many years. So that's, I think that also holds for solution focused practice. That a better understanding really helps us to appreciate the beauty of it even better.
So I'm going to put some links in the chat. These are all ways you can get updates. You can't get updates from the journal website. There's unfortunately no facility there. You can always read the latest stuff. But to get get updates when new things appear, the best way to do it, in my view, is on Substack. And we've started a Substack account, and you'll see the address there in the chat that I've just put in. That's a free to subscribe platform. So, and we send out news updates when there's a new thing published. And it's completely free. You're in complete control. You can subscribe, you can desubscribe anytime. But Substack's a great platform, and I'm very, very keen that we use that to help people know when there's something. So if you want to get updates from the journal, that's, I think, the best way. But there are others. So we have a LinkedIn account, and if you're on LinkedIn, then you can follow the journal and get updates that way. If you're on Facebook, there's a Facebook page for the journal. and there's an Instagram account for the journal if you are down with the kids, as Alex tells me. So we're stopping using our account on the thing formerly known as Twitter because we don't like the way it's going, and there are plenty of other places to get so you can get clued up. But I would highly recommend signing up on Substack. Subscribing to the journal's account on Substack. It's an easy way to get updates pinged very quickly when there's new stuff published. Okay, what else for today? What else for this session? Yes, do contact us if you want to write for the journal, if you want to become a peer reviewer, if you would like to review a book, use that email, journalsfp@gmail.com. That is our kind of central journal email address, and we keep an eye on that. Does the journal have an impact factor index? Not yet, is the short answer. Partly because not because we weren't listed on Crossref. It's not easy for other people outside the SF world to find the stuff. But now we are listed on Crossref. That will be improving. So we don't have an impact factor at the moment, but I'm hoping very much that we will be starting to move towards that.
Can I ask a question, Mark, about this? Are you hoping to put it to Psych Info? As a psychologist, obviously, we like to get things abstracted in Psych Info, and I'm always happy to give a helping hand if you need assistance.
Well, yes, if you could, Stephen, because I'd love to get to Psych Info, but there is a barrier. They don't just let any old thing in.
I know. I've got quite a few of my journals through, and it is a bit of a process, but it sounds like you're on the right pathway now with the number of articles you've published, and you've got peer reviewing and things like this. So there's a good chance it would be successful.
Okay, well, thank you. That's encouraging, and we'll be picking that up as we go on. There are various other places also that we can try and get indexed, and this all helps with the visibility and the credibility of the stuff. Thank you, Stephen. I may get in touch with you at some stage about that when we've had to dig into it a bit more.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly, we'd love to be in Psych Info. That's for sure. Anything else for right now?
Hi, this is Matt.
Hello, Matt.
I've written probably more than 100 posts on LinkedIn on various executive coaching and leadership development topics, and several of those are solution focus related. So I'd be keen to reach out to Anton and just explore, potentially adapting some of those or expanding some of those for the journal.
Okay, excellent. So please do. Yeah.
Please do. And Anton, your email is, I'm sure he has his own email, but anton.stellamans@ilfaro, the lighthouse.be.
Looking forward, Matt. Thanks.
And of course, if you just send something to the journal address, we can always get forwarded. That's not a problem. I'd like to know how long it takes to get response from your team after submitting. Well, I mean, you get an acknowledgement right away. But if it's a peer reviewing thing, we have to find peer reviewers. They traditionally get 30 days to do the review, and then you traditionally have to chase them for it. So we do like to turn things around within a month or 6 weeks. But you certainly get acknowledged that we've seen fit for it to enter peer reviewing. And if there's a bigger conversation to be had about the paper, we'd hope to get back to you before that. So yeah, but it is always a challenge because peer reviewers are busy people. I'm sure you all know this, and even though we've got some good reviewers, sometimes they're tied up, they can't take things on. But the Scholastica platform makes it so easy for all parties. So we can send the manuscripts out blinded, if you like, anonymized, to the reviewers. They put their reviews into the Scholastica system, and then we use the system to send those review comments back to the authors, and so forth. So it's all very streamlined now, which is great. And just to give you a clue, the cost of the whole Scholastica system for the year is about £1,500, for as much as we want to use it for. And there's a bit of typesetting charge on top of that, but it's very affordable. And so with the amount of sponsorship, people are giving €500, maybe €1,000 each association. We're well set to keep the costs covered. So I'm very happy with the way it's working at the moment. Are there set publication times? That's a great question, Helen. Thank you. Now, so the way it works is that with the new platform, we can publish on a rolling basis. So when stuff is ready, it's published, but then every 6 months we roll it up into a new volume. So at the moment we're populating volume 8, number 1, but at the end of June, that will come to a close. That'll be that number done, and we'll start volume 8, number 2, in the second half of the year. So we've been two numbers a year thus far, and I'm going to try and keep that going for now. But with the good news is because we can publish on a rolling basis, then there's stuff to talk about. There's new stuff coming out every few weeks, which is why it's good to be on a thing like Substack or one of the social media platforms, because then you can find out immediately when there's a new piece coming out. No, that's a great question. That's one of the advantages of the modern system. In the old days, previously, even at the University of Las Vegas, there were 2 issues a year, and that meant on 2 days of the year something happened. But it's much more lively and engaging now with stuff appearing. Say, every few weeks there's a new thing popping out. So I really like that part of it. Good.